We'll look over here for our Sounders here. I used here twice. Uh, who found out some news about the Club World Cup, which is technically next up on the docket for them. Their preseason's kind of taking place right now. They're already undergoing training currently, but we have an idea of potential opponent for the first match of the Club World Cup. So the first match of the Club World Cup is on February 1st between Al Ahly, which is Egypt. They're a club from Egypt, and Auckland City, which is from New Zealand. So whoever wins that match will move on to play the Sounders on February 4th. And the kickoff time here is 9:30 a.m. Pacific time on February 4th. So we have an idea of when that will take place. Both of these are pretty historic clubs in terms of trophies and all that, but pretty interesting to see that draw there. So an Egypt club or New Zealand club, Auckland City or Al Ahly. And if the Sounders were to win, if that match, they would go on to play Real Madrid, which is kind of funny to think about, just the Sounders playing a club like that at all. So that's that news, but that doesn't take place technically for another few weeks. On February 1st is when we find out the winner of that match, and then we find out who Seattle will play as a result. The club made a trade the same day, actually, with Charlotte FC. It's really interesting to see the amount of trades that Seattle's made with Charlotte and St. Louis, as those two have come into the league. The club acquired $170,000 in 2023 general allocation money and $175,000 in 2024 general allocation money from Charlotte FC in exchange for two 2023 international roster slots. This move brings Seattle's number of 2023 international roster slots down to 5. As the team continues its 2023 preseason preparations. This all took place as Seattle defender A.B. Sissoko has received his U.S. green card, granting him permanent resident status in the United States, effective immediately. With that status, Sissoko no longer occupies an international roster slot on the club's roster. The Sounders now have 3 open international roster slots heading into the 2023 season, with 2 current international players on the roster in Leo Chu and Yeimar Gomez Andrade. So, first of all, congratulations to AB on that. That's got to be pretty cool. Normally, I would say this is like kind of setting something up in terms of acquiring allocation money, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this before, where whether it's the reign of the Sounders, they gum up all this allocation money, and all of a sudden, boom, they've got the funds to acquire a new player. I don't know if that's necessarily true here, but two kind of instances make me think so. There's like it's one says no, 2 says yes in my mind. One is the fact that this took place because Sissoko acquired the green card and therefore didn't take up that roster spot, and so it was just like, okay, we have one that we don't really need anymore. That's the one that says no. The 2 are the fact that Seattle is obviously, we talked about this in the last few weeks, not just last week, right? Is that they looked at Aaron Long, they acquired Hebert. There's the talk of I don't know if the general allocation money necessarily applies to that, but they're talking about extending Jordan Morris and Christian Roldan. There are reports that Roldan that's already set. Same with Morris, but that hasn't been finalized, so I don't want to put that out there yet. Some outlets are like, "Oh yeah, it's done." I'm like, we'll wait for that. But that and the fact that you're a team that's, we look at all of our Seattle teams, right? The Seahawks, the Mariners, the Storm, to an extent, they have to bring Stewie back, and then I'll put them in there. The Kraken, the Reign, the Seawolves, Sea Dragons are kind of tough because they're starting a league again. But all those teams have a lot of youth on them. They have a lot of young youth. Have a lot of youth that's going to help them be successful going forward. The Sounders are a team that they have youth, but they're kind of getting older. You look at Raul Ruiz. I don't want to Raul. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend. Raul's getting older. Stephen Fry's getting older in goal. Nico Ladero is near the end of his career. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a lot of players that are their championship window. I'm pulling down on the window effectively, right? So it makes sense for them to be aggressive, to take advantage of that, right? So that's where I see with that. So I would say it's possible that the move's coming. I just don't know how instant that may be. Because again, it seems like Sissoko receiving his green card status could have just opened that up, right? And so now
Right.
they've got extra allocation money to use. We'll see if that actually plays into anything going forward. So looking ahead, I mean, it's a few weeks out, but February 4th versus either Al Ahly or Auckland City at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time is Seattle's first match in the Club World Cup, and I believe it's the first U.S. team to play in the Club World Cup ever. So it's still pretty cool. Brian Schmetzer did have a quote. He said, "We're not going there for vacation." So there's obviously
Goal in mind.
a goal in mind and a mindset. We're not going there just to be happy about it.